The digital era is here, and it's slowly taking control of how we move and spend our money, and will continue to in the hands of governments and private corporations unless we take action and make decisions today to protect our wealth and sovereignty, freedom, today and into the future. So in today's video, we're going to break down how digital IDs, CBDCs, and the Genius Act are all connected, and how Apple actually, in many ways, has set the domino effect off, and why Bitcoin and privacy-focused tech and tokens now become more important than ever. So all right, without further ado, let us get started. So all right, here is where the chain reaction started. Apple, you would know if you've been following tech updates, just launched their digital ID, which seemingly seems like just a feature that lets you load your government issued ID into your iPhone by scanning your passport, reading the chip inside it, and recording a short selfie verification. And TSA, if you're in the US, already accepts this, form of ID in more than 250 airports across the United States. And this matters so much more than it might seem because the TSA is usually the first agency to adopt new federal identity standards. So what we see happening there, we can assume will be rolled out across other aspects of our life, across other agencies, etc. And we even hear that Apple is saying this will soon work in businesses, online accounts, and anywhere identity is required. And we know the whole world is moving digital. That's why many of us, almost all of you here watching, I know this because you're a crypto native crowd. But even outside of crypto, we see it all around us. The whole world is moving online, is moving into a digital framework. And yes, digital IDs are convenient, almost inevitable, and has many wonderful benefits, such as allowing for faster verification, no wallet, no plastic cards. You can tap your phone everywhere, use Face ID, and keep moving. The trade-off, though, and this is what I want to lean into in today's video and what I feel is important to share with you, is that now all of your identity will sit on your device and in the servers of corporations and governments. And we'll unpack that a little more here in today's video, so just hang tight. Hence, if you were to lose your phone, break it, forget your passcode, or get hit with a malware exploit, your digital identity would go offline with it. Security researchers actually highlight risks that include device exploits, spoofed biometrics, phishing attacks, and situations where someone pressures you to unlock your device, which we know happens more often than not in the crypto space. I know I personally have heard of multiple people, and we've seen it in the news. It's not widely broadcasted all the time, but I hear it in our circles of people with decent size holdings of Bitcoin, or people just know that, certain people have a lot of Bitcoin and they get mugged. I know several people, I won't mention names, that have been jumped, there's been burglary attempts on their houses. Um, there's been multiple instances of people being held hostage for their Bitcoin holdings, for their crypto holdings. So it is never wise to share with many people, even if it's friends or family, how much you're holding or that you even hold a lot. It's never something you brag about because it makes you a target. And I would not want anyone here watching to become a target. And now with digital IDs, basically, this makes it much easier to target everyone, basically. But moving on, if we take a look at how this shift is unfolding across other jurisdictions, we see that at least 20 US states are developing mobile driver's license, and another 12 already integrating them into Apple Wallet. So what we see happening here is not happening in isolation. And I'm going to give a few examples of different countries where this has become a problem. For instance, the World Bank runs a program called ID4D, which helps governments create secure IDs that work across banking, public services, and financial programs. And their data shows more than 3 billion people still lack a digital identity that functions online. And that gap limits some people access to payments and essential services. So there is, I would say, like, I don't want to say benevolent, I think that word is too strong in this case, but there are good use cases for digital IDs. However, the question always is, at the expense of what? And this is where I'm going to get into what we're really going to dig into today, because there's a statement, I don't believe it's verbatim, so don't take it verbatim, but essentially the IMF, okay, the International Monetary Fund, that basically controls or has a large, loud voice in controlling monetary policy. Their research, okay, explains that CBDCs depend on strong digital identity systems, because digital money, listen to this, must confirm who a user is before any transaction moves. So let's break that down and what potential risk lay ahead of us embedded in the IMF's agenda and with the rails that Apple is now laying out towards the realization of CBDCs. Because when the IMF says digital money must confirm who you are before anything moves, they are describing a future where every transaction you make is tied to your government issued ID, linked to your device, and saved on their servers once again. So it means your payments, your subscriptions, your donations, the people you interact with, the people you're friends with, who your family is, the industries you support, the policies you support, even the places you shop, and when and where are all going to be visible in real time. So this isn't a conspiracy I'm bringing you. I'm trying to unpack the architecture that's rolling out in real time and what those implications are and how they may affect you, especially if you're in crypto, because that tells me that you're an independent thinker. You're someone who values your sovereignty. You're someone who's ahead of the curve, and you're not sheep, right? You're not somebody that's just going to listen to what people tell you. So I think this is important for you to start internalizing and processing, because digital IDs will give the state full access into your whole life, especially with the power of AI now. They're going to be able to connect dots and make not even a social graph, but a digital representation graph of who you are as a person. And that's only the beginning, because remember, a CBDC can be programmed, and programmable money can block purchases, restrict spending categories, limit daily transfers, apply instant fines, or quietly expire if you don't use it fast enough. It can enforce tax, okay? Your payment of taxes automatically. It can prevent you from buying something the state disapproves of. It can shape your behavior without ever passing a new law. Do you see how it's truly the future? It moves us from money as freedom to money as permission. And the moment money becomes permission, whoever controls the system controls you. Now hold that thought as we zoom in to the next piece. Because when your identity is fused into your money, someone gains the power to freeze you with a click. Your wallet, your savings, your ability to transact, travel, or participate in society, all gone. And we've already seen multiple cases where governments freeze bank accounts of protesters. Even the Trumps were talking about that as to why they got into Bitcoin, why they started looking into crypto, was because their accounts, and these are the Trumps, highly powerful, influential people in this country, their accounts were frozen. Canada even did this with its truck drivers, remember? Go look it up. And we've even seen countries cap cash withdrawals to force adoption. We've seen this happen in Venezuela, even in my home country of Bolivia. The only difference now that we're looking at into the near future is scale, at the magnitude at which they can enforce these behaviors, these actions. A CBDC gives that authority, this is what I want you to understand, instantly over an entire population. And once the infrastructure exists, it rarely stays contained to its original purpose. So bringing today's conversation back to the TSA's early adoption, the state rollouts, and the push from global institutions all point in one direction. The identity shift Apple kicked off is happening everywhere, globally. And we can expect more of this. And I'm not saying it to scare you. I'm saying this to share what I'm constantly studying and looking into and just sharing this information because I feel like you should know. And if I wasn't able to spend a lot of my time down these research rabbit holes, I would want someone to tell me. And this takes us straight into the financial side of the story. So let's talk about the Genius Act, America's digital dollar system, because the US has taken a strategic approach here. Instead of launching a CBDC directly, we know that they vetoed it or they did not pass the CBDC Act that was being proposed. Instead, they passed the Genius Act, which basically means their stablecoins have to be backed with US dollars. There's so many elements to the act. But as it pertains to CBDCs, and that's what I specifically want to talk about, is that while in and of itself, it does not create the framework that obligates individual identity, digital identity verification for a CBDC, or the full architecture for identity-tied programmable money, it does, however, leave a window open. So we'll have to see how it unfolds. But this window requires regulated stablecoin issuers to implement identity verification for AML, anti laundering, KYC, know your customer rules, which makes sense, right? Because they're trying to catch the bad guys. But if you think about it, this now means all stablecoin issued in the US under the Genius Act will be monitoring us on some high level. How our information linked to stablecoins issued under the Genius Act will eventually be handled or treated, we don't know, but it's a slippery slope. Power is a very tricky thing. It can corrupt people. And frankly, it just brings out more of who you are. That's something you'll learn or you have already learned as you become wealthier and wealthier, is that it doesn't change you. People say all the time, money changes you. It doesn't change you. It just makes you more of what was already in there inside of you. And we know that at the heart of so many topics, behind financial regulation, behind monetary regulation, is power and control. And that's why this is a slippery slope. Because what do you think these governing bodies, these corporations, are going to do with more power, with all of our information? So I just want you to be aware so you follow the development of stablecoins as they're handled under the Genius Act, because a lot of the framework has not been defined yet. And that's part of what we will see as we go into 2026. And that's definitely what I will be covering here at my channel. If it interests you, just stay tuned because I will be tracking this carefully and I will be sharing with you what I learn. So long story short, okay, and there's so much I wanted to share with you today, but I really had to pick and choose to keep the story tight and the logical format of this, logical and not get derailed by stories, because there's so many stories I can share of countries and states that have already derailed and had scary instances happen to their people and to their entities because of the power that this biometric identity linked IDs, digital IDs, bring and allow for. And keep in mind, back to the stablecoin issue real fast, that more than $300 billion in stablecoins already circulate globally on public blockchains. So the potential fear of how this information, how our information could get misused so fast is already here, which ties into Bitcoin, which I'm going to get into here in 1 second, and privacy tokens. So let's keep going, because we know the digital dollar verifies the transaction. Algorithms verify the behavior, and we're now seeing these systems come together. The Financial Action Task Force, known as the FATF, actually echoes these concerns. I am so happy for whistleblowers, frankly. And they actually set global rules for anti-money laundering and financial oversight. And their guidance warns that digital identity systems can open the door to surveillance and human rights abuse when the data is mishandled. So we will have to pray. I don't know if you're a praying type of a person. Pray, hope, believe, lobby that the US government ends up using this information, using our information, and creating the framework, frankly, for the Genius Act that does protect our privacy and rights. It could happen. In my heart of hearts, I'm an optimist. I'm not naive in rejecting the evils in the world, hence the reason I brought you today's video, because I do believe in being as prepared as possible as to avoid catastrophic events in our life. We can plan and study and prepare for these and position ourselves strategically in advance to make sure we are never in harm's way as much as possible. So I am a realist on that sense, but I'm also an optimist. And I believe that despite the evil in the world and evil actors, I believe that good can prevail and can prevail when we come together and speak up together and prepare ourselves together and educate and inform each other. And I believe these systems, including AI, can be used for good. And there is one country that has already shown that digital identity can be designed with privacy and consent at the center of it, instead of it moving into a police state. We see this in China through their social scores. And this isn't hate against the Chinese. I love the Chinese. I love Chinese food. I have really good friends that are Chinese, but it is a reality of what we see there. Actually, I read a book, I recommend it. It's called Scary Smart. And in that book by Mo Gaudet, who is one of the fathers of AI, if you want to put it that way, back during his days at Google. And he was one of the first whistleblowers to, ring the alarm on how AI was showing signs of being sentient, another topic for a different time. He actually talks about, based on so much, research and data, that China in many ways is the sandbox for the world. And the technology and the changes we see in China in so many ways is foreshadowing of what will be rolled out across other nations in the world. But back to what I wanted to talk about, and that is the country that's doing it right now. And this country is Bhutan. They show us a different way altogether that national IDs can be handled. They launched a system that runs on zero knowledge proofs, which is very techy. I actually love blockchain tech. Let me know if you ever want me to cover a specific aspect of blockchain tech. I'd be happy to do a deep dive for you and then bring it to you in a way that you could understand. But what's so beautiful about zero knowledge proofs is that it allows someone to prove information like age or citizenship without exposing the full data stack of who this person is and all their information. And Bhutan's system runs on Ethereum. Credentials stay with the citizen, and consent sits at the center of every verification. Bhutan, who's actually a big holder of Bitcoin, very interesting country I may want to go visit, they built a digital identity system that protects freedom rather than concentrating power. Cryptography enforces privacy instead of trust in a central authority. And it's safe to say that these systems are not fully decentralized, but they are better, far better than more traditional setups. And I would love it so much if the US were to look into Bhutan's system, because then America would truly become the land of the free and home of the brave. Not to get cheesy, but I do love this nation so much despite all of its flaws. And here is what all of this means for your financial life, for my financial life, and why Bitcoin matters more than ever. Because with all of these changes rolling out with digital IDs and TSA using it, and we see it rolling out across multiple countries, this is when the conversation of privacy becomes even more essential, aside from Bitcoin's speculative price at the time. Because a decentralized asset does not require permission. It does not rely on government databases, and it does not change your purchasing power through policy decisions. So it doesn't matter what your government says, is law or a citizen can or cannot do. You are sovereign, and you could pick up and leave, and as long as you hold your keys, your access to your money, which is linked to your power, goes with you anywhere. And a fixed supply protects you from monetary expansion. And censorship resistance gives you a degree of independence inside this identity-linked financial environment. So it truly becomes the path out of the financial web forming around digital IDs. And that gives you and I real protection as this system expands, because it's inevitable. All we can try to do is stay informed, Make sure we're holding Bitcoin, make sure we're holding other strategic privacy tokens, which I'm going to cover right now, and that you have really good security hygiene. You know your keys, you have them memorized, or you hold them, in 3 different locations around the world with people who have no interest in stealing from you, or you save it in like 3 different safes. There's different methods. Let me know if you want me to do a video on good key management. So anyway, now let's talk about very specifically why privacy-focused blockchain technologies are designed to help people maintain a reasonable level of confidentiality in their digital interactions. We see that projects like Monero, Zcash, and zero knowledge-based systems explore more methods to reduce unnecessary exposure of personal transaction details online. These approaches are often discussed within the broader context of consumer protection, cybersecurity hygiene, and personal data safety. These technologies, for instance, contribute to an ongoing conversation about how financial systems can protect people from excessive data collection, behavioral profiling, the worst, or unwanted tracking. Some designs even include selective or optional auditability, allowing users to verify specific information with regulated entities when necessary. So, as digital identity frameworks expand globally, the discussion around privacy becomes increasingly important. The goal of these tools is to support personal data security, your security, not to facilitate harmful or unlawful actions. That has to be made very clear. So within the lawful actions conversation topic, privacy serves as a way for everyday users to maintain a normal level of safety in a world where financial interactions leave a digital trace. So using a VPN is not enough because we all leave digital crumbs, fingerprints, though you should be using a VPN. So, as we wrap up today's video, I hope you can now see the new system forming. Digital identity is the entry point. It's the gateway. Digital dollars are the rails. Algorithms sit in the middle. Every scan, tap, and login teaches the system what we accept. It feels convenient at first, but then you notice how much power these rails hold over access, opportunities, and daily life. But opting into that system where they own all of your information is not inevitable. We all have the choice if we start acting now. And we see that there are countries doing it the right way, which we're going to hope and pray that the US does it this way as well, and whichever country you're from also does it the right way. But if it doesn't, you're still in time to move. And if you don't want to leave because you have all of your family with you wherever you are, you take them with you. Seriously, that's what I've done in the past. Anyway, during these times, independent money like Bitcoin keeps your access in your own hands. So who cares if the price is down right now? Bitcoin's on sale. That's how you need to see it. And privacy tokens protect the parts of your life that should stay yours. Your information is yours. So the choice is ours. And it's also our choice to stay educated, stay closely attuned to the changes happening in the world. I used to say I didn't care so much for politics, but the truth is I do. And I care more and more about it the more I study and realize how everything is connected. Economics to geopolitics to monetary policy, it's all connected. Connected to wars, to the printing of money, all connected. So you have to stay informed. And if you don't have a lot of time because you have a full-time job, well, that's why my channel is here. This next decade will define who stays autonomous in a world moving onto digital rails. So I hope you don't take today's topic lightly. I'm not here to scare you. I'm just here to inform you of what's coming so you can start to make strategic decisions right now that will affect you, will affect your children, your children's children. Because remember, making wealth is only part of it. Keeping it is another, and a step further that wealthy people do and enact are protecting their money. And that doesn't mean just hedging against inflation and rolling your money into Bitcoin or gold. It means understanding what's happening on a global fundamental level, structural shift level, and being both on the defensive and the offensive. planning accordingly. Anyway, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope you enjoyed and gained value. Like the video if you haven't yet, and share the video with someone who could gain value from understanding what's happening in the world. I love you, and I'll be back here tomorrow.